In July 2015, authorities raided the suburban basement of an 84-year-old man in Heikendorf, Germany. What they found wasn't a collection of stolen art or old documents. It was a fully intact, 45-ton World War II Panther tank. Sitting right next to it was a flak cannon, a torpedo, and an array of military-grade hardware. For 70 years, this massive instrument of destruction sat silently beneath a quiet, ordinary neighborhood. But this wasn't an isolated case of historical hoarding. Across Europe, deep beneath pristine alpine lakes, sealed inside thousands of kilometers of forgotten subterranean factories, and buried under modern city streets, the final, most terrifying technology of the Third Reich remained hidden for decades. We aren't just talking about lost rifles. We are talking about supersonic rocket planes, radioactive laboratory materials, and weapon components so advanced that they shaped the entire Cold War space race. Why did it take decades to uncover these arsenals? How did multi-ton war machines and entire underground industrial empires simply vanish from history only to resurface in the 21st century? The answer isn't just about cover-ups, it involves deliberate sabotage, unprecedented bureaucratic chaos, and a terrifying legacy of buried danger that still threatens lives today. To understand how whole weapon systems stayed buried, we have to look at where they were built. By 1943, Allied bombing raids were completely leveling Germany's surface industries. In response, Albert Speer, the Reich Minister of Armaments, initiated a desperate, Titan-scale reorganization of military manufacturing. The solution: go underground. The most extreme manifestation of this plan was codenamed Project Riese, German for Project Giant, located in the Aul Mountains of Lower Silesia. Now part of modern Poland, this was a sprawling network of 7 distinct underground complexes bored directly into solid rock. Millions of cubic meters of stone were blasted away by thousands of concentration camp forced laborers from Grossrosen. These weren't simple bunkers. They were designed to be fully self-sustaining, bomb-proof underground cities where the next generation of Wunderwaffen, or wonder weapons, could be mass-produced. We are talking about the Messerschmitt Me-262, the world's first operational jet fighter, and the Horten Ho 229, a stealthy, all-wing fighter prototype that looked decades ahead of its time. But as the Soviet Red Army rapidly advanced from the east in early 1945, the Nazi High Command gave a series of frantic, absolute orders: destroy the evidence. Specialized engineering units didn't just lock the doors. They used massive quantities of explosives to deliberately collapse tunnel entrances, blow up access shafts, and trigger catastrophic cave-ins. Because the Third Reich kept highly compartmentalized, records often destroying logistical documents before a retreat, the precise blueprints, locations, and access points to many of these facilities vanished overnight. For decades after the war, the Polish government and independent researchers knew Project Riese existed. But vast portions of the complex remained physically inaccessible, sealed tight under millions of tons of collapsed granite, safely hiding whatever prototypes or toxic munitions were left inside. You might wonder, didn't the victorious Allies thoroughly sweep the country? They did, but the sheer chaos of post-war Europe actually helped keep many secrets buried as Germany collapsed. A frantic, unspoken intelligence war erupted between the United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union. This was the race for Germany's intellectual property. Under initiatives like the American Operation Paperclip and the British T-Force units, elite teams raced ahead of regular combat troops to seize advanced technology before rival factions could get their hands on it. At the infamous Mittelwerk facility inside the Kohnstein Mountain, where V-2 rockets were assembled, American forces arrived first. They quickly cleared out over 100 operational V-2 rockets, shipping them to the US to jumpstart what would eventually become the NASA space program. But when the Americans realized this territory was designated for Soviet occupation under the Yalta Agreement, they stripped what they could and left. When the Soviets moved in, they found a ransacked, flooded maze. Rather than conducting a meticulous, decade-long archaeological excavation of every side tunnel and hidden chamber, the Soviet military stripped the remaining heavy machinery and used explosives to blow up the entrances to prevent any future use. Furthermore, Europe was dealing with an unprecedented humanitarian crisis, millions of displaced persons, ruined infrastructure, and widespread starvation. Finding every hidden ammunition dump or experimental laboratory buried in a forest took a backseat to basic human survival. If an arms cache didn't have immediate strategic value to the brewing Cold War, it was frequently ignored, forgotten, or intentionally paved over during the massive, frantic post-war reconstruction boom of the 1950s and 60s. This brings us to the most dangerous reason these weapons stayed buried: the sheer lethality of the sites themselves. The secrets of the Third Reich weren't just mechanical. They were chemical and explosive. Take Lake Toplitz, deep in the dense Austrian Alps. In the final months of the war, Nazi officials sank crate after crate into its pitch-black, oxygen-depleted depths. For years, rumors swirled about hidden Reichsgold. When divers finally investigated decades later, they didn't find gold. They found millions of dollars in counterfeit British banknotes, part of a massive economic sabotage plot called Operation Bernardungtonens, naval torpedoes, and sea mines. The lake's unique, layered ecosystem lacks oxygen at the bottom, which perfectly preserved these weapons from rusting away, keeping them fully volatile for generations. On land, the situation is even more critical. Geologists refer to a phenomenon known as frost heaving. Over decades, the repeated freezing and thawing of soil naturally pushes dense, heavy objects upward toward the surface. This means that weapons buried deep underground in 1945 are only now emerging into the path of modern plowshares. Highway expansions and housing developments every single year. Specialized bomb disposal units in Germany defuse an average of 5,000 unexploded World War II bombs. That's over 13 bombs every single day. Entire city districts are routinely evacuated in places like Frankfurt, Berlin, and Munich when a routine construction project strikes a buried cache or a massive Allied blockbuster bomb. Because these areas are highly volatile, active minefields, historians cannot simply dig them up for study. They remain buried out of absolute necessity until highly trained professionals can systematically neutralize the danger, one terrifying discovery at a time. The final weapons of the Third Reich didn't stay buried because of a supernatural conspiracy. They stayed hidden because of the sheer scale of total war, deliberate acts of industrial sabotage, the chaotic dawn of the Cold War, and the terrifying danger of the weapons themselves. As time moves on, the Earth continues to slowly yield these dangerous historical relics, reminding us that the echoes of World War II are still physically resting right beneath our feet. If you found this deep dive into the hidden logistics of history fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. We have a massive, multi-part series coming up where we look inside the specific, unmapped tunnels of Project Riese and the eerie tech found inside them. Drop a comment below. What do you think is still waiting to be discovered under the soil of Europe? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next investigation.